Kaselelia. My name is Mora. I'm from Nedge.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for making your time to meet with us today. Today I have some questions to ask about yourself. Can you please share about your journey to becoming professor at COM?
Okay. So before I answer that question, thank you for inviting me to speak a little bit about my experience and how I got to COM. Okay. First, my plan was never to come to COM because my background is in a different area. I've always wanted to become a counselor, but especially to work with little kids. So my study was in psychology, and the goal was to work with little children. But then when I first came to the island, there was no opening at the college. So I started working at the Kaselelia Press newspaper. That was my first work here on island when I first came back. I first started as a reporter, where I wrote articles about some of the issues that were found on Pohnpei. And then later, when the manager of the newspaper left, I became the manager and a reporter for the Kaselelia Press. So a few months after I became the manager and the reporter, COM called me and said, you know what, there is a position. The person who's teaching psychology is leaving COM. And we're looking, we heard that you have some background in psychology. So we want to ask if you can come down and apply for the position. So because it was something that was related to what I studied, I applied for the job. And I was lucky to also get the job. And this was in 2003. It was in 2003 that I started at COM, and I came as an instructor, where I started teaching psychology, and then later on, they asked if I could also teach history of Micronesia. So in 2004, I started my first course in history of Micronesia, and after I taught history of Micronesia several times, I began to develop a passion in teaching. So now I don't want to be a counselor anymore because I love teaching. Because when I see my students go out there and when they succeed, I also feel successful because in a way I feel that I'm also a part of their accomplishment. So I've been here for 15 years now.
And what are the biggest challenge you face in your position at the college?
The biggest challenge has been, getting students to like to read, because that's a challenge that we see every time. Students don't like to read in our classrooms. So that's a challenge also. And the other challenge that I also see is also with our students, having them to come to class on time, right? And make sure that when they come to class, they're prepared for class. Because there would be days when you have students come into a classroom and they didn't bring a notebook or they didn't bring a textbook. Sometimes they didn't even bring pens or pencils. So little things like that have, been challenges. And these are things that I see every semester with my students. But, I'm also glad to see that, after they're given advice, they learn from these lessons and they work hard,
And do you consider yourself as a Micronesian?
That's a tough question. I guess generally we can say that, in a sense, I am Micronesian, but I would like to be referred to as a Pingilapis and a Pohnpeian, because Pingilap is an outer island of Pohnpei. So if I go out there, I would, I always tell people that I'm Pohnpeian. Right? And if they ask me, where is Pohnpei? I said, if you look at the map, because they know Guam and they know Hawaii, but they don't know Pohnpei. So I would just say, oh, it's right next to Guam, right next to Hawaii. That's what they know, right? But see, this is a reflection of how insignificant our islands are. And, if we speak about our islands, we have to be proud about where we come from and who we are. Right? So I'm Ponpe and I'm Pinglapis. I'm also part Mokilis because my mother is half Mokilis.
Thank you. As a professor here, do you have any advice for us STEM students?
With the work that I've done with students, all I can say is, and the advice will come from the challenges that I've seen with our students. When you come to college, do not be scared. College, just think of college as a stepping stone. Right? So you step from one stone to another stone. It's natural to be nervous, to be scared about the next level. Right? But in college, you get to experience many things. As some of the students have said, you get more freedom when you get to college. But then when you get to college, you also have to be prepared to make the right choices, the right decisions, right? Because it's, even though you have a lot of freedom here, you will be the only one making those choices. It is true that you will have counselors, you will have parents giving you advice, but the final decision will be you as the student, right? So do not let other things, get in the way of your learning here at college. You'll find yourself, hanging around with a lot of new friends, a lot of social activities, which is good. Because it's unhealthy when you come to school and you say, oh, I'll only focus on studying because grade is more important. True, grade is important, but you also need to socialize with other people. So if there is a balance between social activities and your schoolwork, that's a really healthy development towards success in college. So that would be my advice, a balance between social activity and schoolwork.
Thank you.
You're welcome.